In today's wood story, we are building these beautiful and scary Halloween lanterns. They're super easy to make, requires just a few tools, but the benefit today is I'm gonna show you 3 different methods that you can carve out these faces. So depending on your tools, there'll be a method for you. So go grab your tools and let's start this wood story. And if you're the kind of person who like to have the plans in your hands, then you can go ahead and grab the plans right here via the link in the description below. So now that I've taken the time to cut my piles to the correct length that they're going to be, and I use my miter saw for that, it is now time to make them the width that they're going to be as well. So the first pile is our top and our bottom. They're just gonna stay exactly like this for now. We have a nice square at the moment. And then we have 4 pieces. These are all 7 inches long, but they're gonna have 2 different widths, which is why I put them in 2 piles. The first one is going to be 4 1/4 wide, and the other one is going to be 3 1/4 wide. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut those now, and then it's gonna be time for some fun. So now I have my pieces cut to size, my 3 1/4, my 4 1/4, and my 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. These ones are 7 inches long, and that one is also 7 inches long. And I'm even saving the scrap pieces too, so don't get rid of these just yet. We're gonna use those later on as well. So now that our pieces are cut to size, it's time to make the fun begin. And not to worry, I'm gonna show you 3 different ways that you can make these awesome Halloween faces. So depending on your tools in your shop, there's gonna be an option for you. And we're gonna start with the jigsaw method. And what I've done is I've taken one of my pieces that are 4 1/4 wide, and I've just traced a little face on it. And you can do a design from a website. You can take one of my designs that I've made available to you, or you can even use router templates just to trace it on here. But what you do want to make sure of is that you're not going any further out than 1/2 inch from the edges, because otherwise you're going to run into trouble later on when we assemble it. When you are using a jigsaw, it is important that you use the right blade. And one of the things that's going to make this kind of project a lot easier is if you're using a tiny little blade like this. These are also sometimes referred to as scrolling blades. Even though we're not using a scroll saw, you can get scroll blades for a jigsaw, and it's just going to make it a lot easier. For the jigsaw method, start by drilling a few holes into the design. This will make it a lot easier to use the jigsaw following when you have to get into the really tight curves. And this is the result of using the jigsaw. Not bad in my opinion. I haven't done anything to it. I haven't sanded it. I haven't gone inside and sanded it. I haven't sanded the outside. This is just using the jigsaw with a scroll blade. And really, it didn't take that long. A couple minutes and you have a great result. Obviously, just think about what kind of design you're going to be using. If you are going to do something with a lot of different details, it will be a little bit harder to get around the corners, but with that scroll blade on the jigsaw, it really makes a big difference. But let's look at method number 2, because there are many ways that you can do this and none of them require a CNC. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring out our router and we are going to get to work and make the same template, but with a router. For the router version, you have a few different options. You can 100% freehand the design if you have a smaller router and a steady hand. You can, of course, also, like me, use a router template, and it will require a small templating bit, or you can use a brushing set, which is what you'll see that I'll be using.
You can save some time by again drilling some holes into the design. This just makes for less material for the router bit to remove. But just be advised that if you are using a brushing bit versus a templating bit, your design will be offset by approximately 1/8 of an inch depending on your brushing size. So this means that if you drill too close to the edge, you will have some bumps in your design. So when in doubt, go in the middle, and that will just alleviate any risk of it not looking great. And there you go. Here is the routed out version. And that brings us to method number 3, which is using a laser to cut out the pumpkin face. I have an 80-watt laser, and it took me about 5 passes to cut the wood. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of using my laser for cutting wood because it does leave a black charcoal edge all the way around. But for something like a pumpkin face for a lantern, that actually just worked out perfectly. And for all these methods, yes, this is definitely the easiest, but I also recognize that not everyone has a laser. So that is why we have 3 options on the table today.
Regardless of what method you chose for cutting out your face, whether it was the jigsaw version, router version, or laser version, it's time to assemble this really fun pumpkin lantern. And this is where you're gonna bring back your pieces. So we had the pieces from before that were 3 1/4 wide, 7 inches long. And we still had one left of the one that was 4 1/4 wide, which is the same as the one that we cut the face on. And then we have our top and bottom, and I just quickly routed a nice edge to both of them only on the one side. So now we're gonna start the assembly. And essentially what you wanna do is you want to have your back with nothing on it. Pick one of your faces, which is gonna go in the front. And then the 2 smaller pieces are gonna go on the inside of this. And that's gonna create a nice little box like this. And how I am going to attach it, you can do it in many different ways. If you have a nail gun, that's a great way of doing it. You can use glue, and you can use a combination of the 2, or you can even screw it in. Just make sure that if you are screwing it in, that you make some pilot holes first, otherwise you might risk that the wood is going to split. So let's get this one glued up and see what it looks like. Now to align this one, I like to just dry fit it first, and I'm just visually going to do it. I don't need to measure it. I just want it to visually look good and more or less even. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use a pencil to mark where the borders are right here, so that when I place it with glue, it's a lot easier for me to actually navigate it. And then we'll just add the glue and glue that one down too. Just a little bit of glue, don't go crazy. And then I'm gonna align it with those marks, start from the one end and put it down like that. And then it's still wet, the glue, but I'm just gonna flip it over, being really careful not to move it. And then I'll just add a few more nails here, making sure to put it in the right position. So I saved some of my scrap wood, and what I'm quickly going to do is I'm just gonna mark this And I'm gonna make 2 of these. I'm gonna cut this so that it's the right width, but I'm gonna cut 2 of these. And then I'm gonna quickly glue them together, and then I'll come back afterwards and just cut off the excess. So essentially I have whatever is needed for the inside area, and that we are going to take and glue on the underside of this lid so that we can put it down and so that it doesn't slide all over the place. Because right now it's just kind of free floating, and we want it to be a little nicer than that.
So with the scrap wood cut, I'm just gluing it together with some regular wood glue and some CA glue and activator. This is just going to speed up the process, as I don't want to wait for the regular glue to dry. And then this bottom lid is then glued onto the actual lid on the underside using this same regular glue and CA glue method.
I think it looks pretty sweet at this point, but I like to add a few extra little touches.
For the lid for the lantern, I marked 2 holes that were equally spaced out that I then proceeded to drill out. This will be for rope to go through.
So I purchased this 1/2 inch rope from Amazon, and it's great, nice and thick, and it's gonna give it a nice little look here. But this is almost impossible to get through the holes. But luckily, I figured out the trick because it arrived this way. When you first get it, it comes with just a little bit of tape on the end. So once you've cut it, you're gonna wanna do the same thing. So just grab like some packing tape or something, and then just wrap that really tightly around here. As tight as you possibly can, like that. And then just cut off the excess. Okay, so now, this will be a lot easier to feed through. And I'm gonna start from the back side, from underneath, and I'm gonna go up a little bit more than what I need, and then I'm gonna go through the hole the other way. And then you can decide how big of a loop you want. It's really just to give it a nice little aesthetic look. It's not really for functionality other than, I guess, to take off the lid and put your candle in. And then you can kind of just backtrack it a bit here. You can go ahead and take off that tape again. Right here. And then just be careful when you feed it back through, because you don't want it to come out again. Like that. And I'm gonna go right about to here, like that. And I'm gonna use some CA glue and activator to keep this in here. And once that's all dried, then I can go ahead and cut off the excess. But for now, we'll just do like this. Right through the holes here. Careful not to get on my actual fingers, and I'll be stuck here forever. And same thing on the other side. And I'm just realizing as I'm doing this that this might have been nice to do before you added the bottom. That way this would have been completely hidden. So if you want to make it extra nice, then do this first before adding this bottom lid part. And that way you won't see it at all. There we go. And I'll just let that dry for a little bit. The activator does activate it, but because I went pretty far in, I'm not overly confident that it's fully dry. So I'll just let that sit for a bit, and then we'll cut off the excess.
I decided to finish my pumpkin lanterns using a walnut colored stain. It gives a nice rustic look, but you can of course also stain or paint them orange or whatever color you desire. Either way, these boxes are now ready for Halloween, and I think I'm gonna keep mine on my porch with some nice rechargeable LED lights inside, because warning, do not use these with real candles. So what do you think? What options will you be using to cut the jack-o'-lantern faces? You can go ahead and grab this easy to build plan and fun jack-o'-lantern router templates via the link in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and of course to hit that bell to be notified of new easy to build project videos. I will see you soon in the next Wood Story.